Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with more 3D printing goodness. So 3D printers these days have been getting better and better and better, and I'm here to try and figure out whether or not you need a better and better and better printer. The way I'm going to do that is I'm going to be testing it with my two Whale printers. I have the Whale 3 SE, which is a beautiful 8K printer. Stunning results. I think this one has given me the most joy out of any 3D printer that I've ever owned. It's so easy to use and it gives me absolutely crazy results. Well, Whale reached out to me and offered me their new 14K printer for testing, and obviously because I had such a good time with this one, I jumped at the opportunity to get my hands on this one. So now I'm going to see whether or not there is a noticeable difference between the two printers, whether or not 8K versus 14K is going to deliver different results. So I have already printed miniatures off, but as you can see, I have not removed them, I haven't touched them, I haven't seen them yet. They are both still on their print beds. It is exactly the same sculpt, exactly the same orientation. I literally was in the slicing software. I chose one printer, hit slice, hit the other printer, hit slice, input, hit print. It took exactly the same amount of time to print. From what I can see, flawless results, no lifting, no broken supports, no nothing. They're both flawless. So I'm going to take them out now, clean them off, and yeah, have a bit of a test around with them. I'm going to paint one of them today as well. I did them in different colored resins just so I wouldn't get confused. In case they wasn't a noticeable difference, I wanted to still be able to tell which one was from which printer. So one is just printed in clear or red, and one is printed in gray. So the models that I've chosen for testing are from Loot Studios, and Loot Studios does produce some of the finest quality 3D printing files out there, which I thought would be the best ones to use for kind of discerning the difference between 8 and 14K. So without further ado, let's get in, let's get these models off their print bed, let's get them cleaned up, put onto some sort of plinths that I didn't really think about until this morning, so I have to try and makeshift some plinths, however that's going to work, and get some paint on them, and then we'll see what the results actually entail. And then I'm also going to throw some paint on the 14K one today to see what the result is. So that's something that excites you guys. Stick around and enjoy the video. Okay, so the first thing we did was, of course, print off our two miniatures. So we chose the awesome busts from Loot Studios. That's an awesome looking like Wood Elf Ranger character, like drawing and firing his bow, hood up, mask covering his face. And he's just one of those like really sneaky rogue elf style characters, and I thought it'd be really fun to try and cast him up or print him out and compare him. There seemed to be a lot of different textures on him, so I thought he'd be good. There's skin, there's cloth, there's leather, metal, lots of fabric, furs. So as goes a piece to try and test the sharpness of these printers, I thought they would be the perfect inclusion. After they were printed out, it was of course time to move on to getting them off their print beds and getting them cleaned up. So like I said, I cast one, I keep saying cast, I apologize. I printed one in red clear resin. The two resin types are pretty much identical, so there shouldn't be any difference in the manufacturing process from that. Both resins from the same company. It's just literally one is a gray and one is a red. The only downside I have to the Nova3D printers is the SE. You have to take this huge big acrylic lid off, and it's quite heavy. It's quite a pain to put somewhere. And the 14K, they tried to replicate or fix this by having the lid kind of lift up and move back, but unfortunately it goes out about 8 inches past the back of the printer when you open it up. Therefore you can't have it against a wall or anything like that. So I think literally the only downside that I have to these printers are their lids. A bit of a pain, unfortunately. So they were, like I said, removing their print beds, and then I very carefully removed all of their supports, starting with the larger ones with my hands, but then I moved down to sharp knives and tools and tweezers to remove the remainder of the pieces when I was at my actual painting desk. Always a treat to remove the supports and like reveal the miniature, especially when you're doing a video like this where you're trying to check the two different qualities of the prints. It is always very exciting to see how they turn out. I always like using a sharp scalpel to try and remove supports, so I leave behind as little extra debris as possible. Marks and scuff marks as well. Now, before anyone messages in the comments, I am fully aware that I should still be wearing gloves at this particular point because the miniature has not been cured yet, even though it's been washed. The surface is still a little bit soft and a little bit malleable, which means that of course the resin isn't 100% cured, which is not something you should touch with your skin. I do apologize for showing that on screen, but genuinely the pair of gloves I had a minute ago was actually the last pair of gloves I had in my studio and I hadn't realized. So more have been ordered. But for this particular video, unfortunately, I had to go a little bit gloveless for the remainder of it, which isn't advised, but I didn't really have much of a choice. I'm on a deadline here. So once again, removing the supports carefully, trying not to like chip the surface or cause any scratching. Obviously, if we want to compare these two miniatures, we want them to be as flawless as possible when it comes to comparing them and having them being finished. Like I said, there was no option to have actual plinths printed, so I had to like MacGyver some together. So I used some cork to make a base, a 50mm piece of MDF that I laser cut out, and then I actually just sawed up some old brushes with wrecked bristles to give myself these, I don't know, little kind of sticky plinthy style things. The hold on those is like extremely hard and solid when you add the super glue. Super glue and cork has this weird reactivation-y kind of thing where it dries like, it's like rock solid, like cement when it's together. So it's an awesome thing that I've used to get loads of miniatures together before, and it worked a treat for these guys. So with the model on his makeshift plinth, the bow in place, that's one of the miniatures done. And then we went across and did exactly the same process, but we did it on the clear red one. Same thing, made him with custom base. There is a hole drilled in the bottom for plinths, so somewhere on Loot Studio's website, I'm sure I have access to files for printing them. I just didn't find them or pay attention to them, unfortunately, until literally the models were printed, and I was waking up this morning thinking about how the video was going to go and suddenly realized that I don't have plinths. So that was a bit silly of me. Obviously, it is hard to tell the quality of the miniatures as they stand in these two different forms. Obviously, the quality is beautiful, but comparing them, I definitely knew I needed to spray them both before I could make any actual comparisons. See how they took paint and see if spraying that I do with the zenithal highlight will show up any imperfections, any cracks, or any kind of stuff like that. But first things first, when the miniature was all assembled and all the glues had dried, it was time to cure them. So for this, I have Nova3D-is cure station. It's a nice big one, so I can't have a model like this big, tall, on a plinth, big bust. It's still going to fit inside it, and it's still going to work perfectly. There's actually something quite satisfying about watching models cure like this, spinning around. They only go on for 3 minutes, but it does cure all the different areas perfectly, and the model becomes like rock solid, like plastic after that. Thought some sped up footage here would be good, but I'm actually getting a little dizzy looking at it. I love the reflectiveness of the UV rays on the clear resin. It's just such a cool looking effect. And from here, the models were then, of course, fully made. So I gave them a quick spray. So I sprayed them both black, and then I sprayed them both gray sear to give me the best idea of detail. And this is where I spent about 20 minutes kind of exploring the miniatures and seeing if I could find any kind of difference in the detail or quality of the miniatures. Starting with each and every different like facet of the miniature, whether it be the leather, the metallics, or weapons, hand, skin, all those bits and pieces. And honestly, at the end, I couldn't really find a difference between each print. The 8K came out flawlessly, just like the 14K did. And I was wondering if there would be any difference when I decided to throw some paint on them. So I did actually move on from here and get the 14K one. And I decided that what I would at least do is throw some base coats on or washes on it and see if I could notice any imperfections or any failure in the printing process from that. Would any lines be visible or anything like that? And I find the best way to find if there is any lines on show is to throw contrast on it, because obviously contrast is designed to find nooks and crannies and shades. So obviously if I applied this to the areas, the lines will literally jump off the miniature and you would see any imperfection. So I went through the process of applying base coats to the entire miniature with contrast, and then I shaded the miniature. And honestly, the only lines that I could find in any way, shape or form was at the very, very, very top of his head. You could see a tiny amount of lines. The exact same and identical lines were present on both the 8K and the 14K printer. So there was no difference there. Which then started to get me thinking about the quality of the sculpt itself. Obviously, Loot Studio hires some very proficient, very talented, very skilled 3D designers. There's a reason that I've been subscribed to Loot Studio's Patreon since literally day one. from the first Goblin set that they released. I have been a member and I've collected their monthly subscription service ever since then. I haven't failed to miss a single month, which means I have quite the backlog of beautiful models, and it's the reason why I grabbed this. I've never been sponsored by Loot Studios. I've never done a video for Loot Studios. It's just how I feel about them. That's why I grabbed their sculpts to basically use for this video. But I think there's definitely another level of sculpting that maybe Loot Studios cannot reach, or at least a level of detail that a 14K printer just can't use. So I am wondering if there are sculptors out there that make even better designed miniatures. I cannot honestly think of any. And I think that's the reason is like when I look at 3D prints, or if I like to back people, it's usually to do things like armies or squads or war bands. I don't generally tend to back people who do, you know, just beautiful models for competition painters. And that's where I think I need to kind of investigate more, and hopefully you guys will be able to help me out with that. I'm looking for you guys to let me know in the comments below where you think I can get access to files of a higher quality. I'm talking about some ferocious miniatures or just some stunning sculpts that you think you would actually notice a difference between the 8K and the 14K printers. That's the kind of detail that I'm looking for. Like when I first took the 14K miniature off the printer, I noticed that all the kind of dents and marks and stuff on his leather van braces, which are obviously made of some sort of lizard scale. And I was like, oh my God, those details are stunning. I wonder, are they so proficient or so prolific on the 8K one? And they were. The 8K one captured all the same detail and showed it off beautifully as well, which then left me a little bit stumped as to the difference. And in the end, I decided that I don't think there is actually a difference. Both printers did a perfect job and represented this miniature exactly how the designer designed it. Nothing was missing, nothing was left out, and nothing was added in. I will give my final verdict at the very end of the video about how I feel. Do I think this printer is worth it? So on and so forth. As you can see, this model took contrast beautifully and left me with a really nice result. Now, the miniature in this particular video, this awesome bust, is only going to get base coated and washed in today's video, but I will be layering him up, adding as much detail as I physically can and trying to make him look as beautiful as possible over the rest of the week on my Twitch stream. I stream on Twitch every single Tuesday and Thursday evening between 8 and 10 Irish time. So if you are curious, you want to jump along and get involved, then I will obviously leave links to my Twitch down in the description as well. You can click that link, follow along, and jump on when I'm streaming. There's a really great community of people who join me every Tuesday and Thursday now, and we like to get hobby done together. It keeps everybody accountable and make sure that each and every week they do manage to get some hobby progress done. We do Twitch showcases as well as the last Thursday of every month, and that's actually this week. So guys, we'll be submitting models to the Discord channel. I'm sharing them off and we're going to go through them on Twitch, having a chat about them, giving ourselves some feedback, and it really just helps obviously keep us involved as well. Everyone's working towards the end of the month trying to get some awesome pieces done and shared on the Twitch. As you can see, this model really did come together with the end of the contrast. Used a bit of gold for some of the details. He is a wood elf after all. I like to put him in the wood elf category. And although wood elves are of course all nature based, hence all the beiges, greens and browns that I use to base coat this miniature, they're obviously quite a royal line. And they're of course elves, so artisans, so they do indeed have gold mounted pretty much every year they can. So handles of weapons and blades are obviously going to get done. He's also got his chain around his neck, which got some of that detail as well. I threw in a lot of turquoise into this guy as well because I do like there to be a flash of color. And here I am throwing some contrast, some shade across the whole piece to finish it off. Like I said before, Nova3D is a great supporter of the channel. They don't sponsor me directly, they don't pay me anything, but they do like to send me equipment and printers to try out for them. They're very kind and generous with me and my channel in regards to that, and I do genuinely really enjoy their products. That's why I keep saying yes to them. I've turned down printers and laser cutters and everything from a bunch of other companies that I'm just not interested in. Whereas Nova3D, if they ever get in touch with me, I'm always happy to help them out. And that's because I do think they are a slightly underrated brand that do deliver some really nice equipment. So if you do want to check them out, I will of course leave the links in the description below to check them out yourself. And you can decide whether the 8 or the 14K printer is for you. Here's the miniature with all the shade applied. Like I said, I'm going to give you my final verdict now, and please let me know in the comments below what you think of my results. Okay guys, and there we have it, the Whale Ultra 14K 3D printer. So what are my final thoughts on it? I honestly don't think that I can give final thoughts in this particular video. From what I can tell from all the evidence, the miniature that I printed off perfectly on both printers, like absolutely flawlessly, and I couldn't see any marked improvement from 8K to 14K. Now that's not to say that the 14K can't print miniatures to a higher standard. The file that I chose just didn't have the detail, I think. I mean, I chose Loot Studios because I believe they had some of the highest quality miniatures on the market for 3D printing at the moment. And the 8K one could grasp and print every single line, crease, and crevice that the designers put into these models perfectly. So there's no extra that the 14K printer could do, in my humble opinion. I would love to kind of revisit this particular topic quite soon, if I'm being honest, because I would like to get your guys' opinion on, is there a 3D sculptor out there in the verse who can make a better sculpt? So what do you guys think is the best designed, highest detail STL files on the market? One that can really show off the difference between an 8K and a 14K printer. That's something I would love to do. From the results of this particular video, I wouldn't bother personally with the 14K. This one here, the Whale 3 SE, I think this is the best value 3D printer on the market. It is 8K, it's got huge dimensions, and the price point is absolutely incredible. So the 14K one is nearly twice the price, or is twice the price than this one. And the prices aren't crazy. So for instance, you can buy the SE for about $280. For a printer this size, this spec'd out, honestly, it is such an easy printer to use, and it has always given me great results. So funny enough, I'm here doing a review video for the 14K one, and I'm still recommending the SE personally. I just think it's fantastic. If you have €600 to spend, in my opinion, I would rather get the SE plus the wash and cure stations plus some extra tools and bits and pieces for that price, as opposed to going for the €600 14K one. Now that's just my personal opinion. Like I said, I do the next version of this video where hopefully you guys give me some suggestions on some higher quality prints, and maybe I can see a real value and a real reason to go from this up to this. But right now, buy this one. This is just the best thing ever. Like I said, I can't get over it ever since the day that I got this printer. I have bigger, more expensive printers, but for value, I think this thing is just, it knocks all the other competition out of the market. So yeah, I'll leave links to them down below if you want to check out these printers for yourself and check out the amazing value that this one is, and maybe it's one that will excite you and get you interested. I get no kickback or nothing like this. There's no ulterior motive for me. I did get all this equipment sent to me for free for review, so I don't have to say anything nice, or I don't have to tell you guys to try and buy it. I just say it out of what I feel. So how I feel is what I just said. I hope you guys found this video interesting a little bit. Maybe it's a little bit different to my normal 3D printing videos, but I do have access to quite a lot of 3D printers, and I would like to go through them in a little bit more detail with you guys and show you my honest thoughts and reviews with them. So if that's something you're interested in, please let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like. Ask me any questions you want in the comments below, and I will get back to everybody that bothers to message. And make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any and all future content. Thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I'll see you in the next one.